Like, the child is playing up and it gets shoved an iPad to keep it quiet and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I see that. Or a mobile phone with games on it or whatever to keep it, like, subdued, if you like. I see that, and I think I kind of see both sides. Obviously, I've grown up in the middle where I've seen how it was and I've seen how it's changed, and I'm living in both in terms of my psyche coming from that, where how it was, and the physical presence now living in how it's changed, what it's changed too. I see the good and I see the bad as well. Like, I see the positives of how the technology advances us and allows us to do certain things in terms of learning and access to people who may not be in the same spot as you. Like, a gran can see and watch her grandchild grow who lives in a completely different country. Like, the beautiful things like that, I see the benefits. Being able to access information and learn and watch YouTube videos from all over the world and learn about other cultures and other walks of life and all this, that's all great. And buy things and and the access to things is great. And then there's the other side of using our brains less. We don't think as much anymore. We don't have to. We can put in a button and go on a screen and find out what we need to find out. We can have a sat nav tell us where to go. We don't need to look in a book and know it's the third road on the left. We don't have to use our brains so much. So that's the other thing. I think we're using less of our brains, which is not such a great thing. We don't think enough for ourselves anymore. We've got Google now. We don't need to know how to spell the word or learn how to spell the word or remember the phone number or all that stuff. It's all there in the palm of our hand. So there's that side of it that I think is not so great. Our brains have become a bit mush because we're not using them as much. Our memory is not as good. Before, you used to know a phone number. You used to know a phone number before. You used to know a few phone numbers off by heart. You don't need to now. If I look at myself, I knew a lot more phone numbers before off by heart. I knew a lot more things off by heart before. But now, I don't need to. My brain has become a bit lazy. I don't need to think about memorizing things anymore. I don't need to know it's the third. I don't need to look in an A to Z and look at the roads and see that it's a third turning on the left after the roundabout. I don't need to do any of that because I've got a sat nav with a lady or guy telling me third road on the left or turn here or whatever. And so I'm not using that part of my brain anymore. I think that kind of stuff is like the downside. And there's probably others, but those are the two initial ones I would say. I use it all the time. I use it every day. It's helped me to do a lot of things. There's definitely a lot of pros in it, 100%. There's a lot of things I wouldn't be able to do without it in the way that I do them and in the access that I have to things and people. And there are cons as well. There are definitely cons as well. Which there's more of, it's a tough one. I think our memories were stronger and better and we just operated differently. We were more patient because we had to be. You had to wait for a letter to arrive. You couldn't just send an email. I think we just worked differently, and I think that's a lot to do with the breakdown, with the youngsters and the craziness that they're going on with right now. I think that has a lot to do with it. They were a lot more, or we were a lot more interactive. You couldn't just be away with yourself. And the cyberbullying that people forget about is a big part of it as well. Like, and peer pressure, it's all gone online now. So, bullying and peer pressure and all that stuff we had at school in the playground, it's all gone online now, so it's become bigger. So then what's happened is everything that we kind of dealt with in our way and however we dealt with it back in the day, now it's kind of exploded. It's a much bigger deal now. So how it affects that individual is much bigger. The pressure on them is much more because there's a bigger audience laughing at them for whatever it might be that happened in school that's now gone onto the internet. So it's a greater thing than what we had when it was just, it was quickly over, more or less, because it wasn't going to be online the next day. So there's so many different aspects that are not often looked at or talked about. It's a lot now, Same with the whole Me Too movement and stuff, all this stuff that's coming out now and sexual abuse and all this stuff that with these cases and all these people being called out now because it's not, a small group of people controlling all of that stuff now. It's on the internet, it's everywhere, there's access. People can speak out now and have a voice and people are not able to hide as much as back in the day. All that stuff was happening before, nothing's changed. It's just at the time it was happening, there was people who could control that information getting out to anybody where it mattered. Now they can't. I can get on my little computer, I can even go on my phone and put it to the world in the comfort of my home somewhere or wherever I am. It wasn't like that before, so the gatekeepers have lost a little bit of footing there. The internet has changed a lot in that regard. It's good and bad. It's like anything, it's man, isn't it? Man is of good and evil, Humans, there's good and there's evil, and it's the same thing with anything that's created by man. In every industry, in every walk of life, in every experience, it can be good or it can be bad, or good and bad can be made from it because there's good and bad people operating those things. A computer, it's good and bad. Internet, good and bad. A cell phone, good and bad. A bicycle, you know what I mean? Like, if it's a bad person riding it, something bad might happen. If it's a good person riding it, something good can definitely happen. It's just about human beings, their makeup, and what their agenda may be, and how they think and how they process.